Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody, to Nightlight. We have Ken Quiethawk to thank for that amazing introduction. He and his wife are native storytellers. Their website is nativestorytellers.com, and I highly encourage you to check it out because their stories are amazing. They carry history through time, and verbal history is something that is really a thing of the past these days, so it's amazing to make a connection to it and hear from our ancestors, among other people. Just a brief note that we do have a show again tomorrow night at 9 o'clock with Ross Hamilton. So check us out then if you have time or inclination. And, of course, our shows are all up on YouTube, and you can get there from the website, barbaradelong.com, or go right to YouTube and look for Barbara DeLong, and there we are. And there are close to 200 shows there now. So we are getting up into triple digits significantly. So there's a lot to choose from. Very eclectically oriented, so there's a little bit for just about everybody. Just about. Mark has an amazing guest tonight, and it's somebody that I'm looking forward to listening to because this new technology, the 5G, is something that I've heard a lot about, but to be honest with you, don't know a great deal about. And his guest tonight, Carolyn, is definitely an expert on it. So I'm going to bring Mark in, and he can tell you more about it. Evening, Mark. How you doing?
I'm fine, Barbara. How are you?
I am hanging in there.
Good.
And I believe I believe we have Carolyn here too. Want me to open her mic?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I'll bring Carolyn on, and we'll get to Noreen in just a second. All right.
I'm here.
Yay.
Okay.
I'm on the phone, though. Is that okay?
It's just fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Yeah, and we haven't done a show that is a PSA. Well, maybe last week with Steve Asher and his warnings about all the paranormal activity in Western Kentucky. But, maybe tonight is our first real PSA. And I need to thank Willie Miranda, from the Paradigm Matrix at our good friends at KCOR for facilitating the production of our show tonight. Thank you, Willie. And during recent sporting events, I've seen these commercials advertising. We're using 5G technology, so you need to go out and buy our product. So you got to buy it. You're cutting edge now, but what did you just really buy? So tonight's show is going to focus on what is this 5G technology, and to help us delve into this technology, Noreen Helphand, the host of Freedom Slips Wild at Heart, is someone who has also been studying 5G, and she's co-hosting with me. So, hi, Noreen. How are you?
Hi, Mark. Thank
Good.
you guys for having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. And our guest is Carolyn Larocque, and she is an environmental biologist, and she works with the New Hampshire State Commission to educate communities on 5G. She has a YouTube channel where she presents her fascinating research, and you can find her YouTube channel under Carolyn, Carolyn Larocque, Larocque. So you can go to YouTube, type in her name, and get some really fascinating videos. So welcome, Carolyn.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. So, Carolyn, let's, just kind of, this is a new topic for Nightlight. I'm not a expert on it. You are. We're going to hear Noreen's story in a little bit. She's been studying it as well. But maybe just give us just a general overview of what is 5G, and as the evening progresses, we're going to get into a lot more detail. But just tell the audience just like basically what it is.
Sure. Basically, 5G stands for the 5th generation of wireless telecommunications. And what makes this different is that it's actually microwave technology that was developed by DARPA. And if you don't know what that is, it stands for the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. And it falls under the directed energy weapons category, and that's how it's used by our military. And it was never previously considered for a public communication platform because it's really not that reliable. The signals are so high frequency. They travel super fast, but they don't go for long distances. So in order to make it work, you have to have this really dense grid of antenna systems in order to maintain the signal. And on top of that, they're extremely hazardous. So that's why everyone is so up in arms is why are they using this technology when for decades they've known they could use it for certain short signals really quick and whatnot. But now, why are they using it now when it's so hazardous to people and the environment and wildlife? And it's not even a great, reliable method of telecommunications for people anyways. If you're a device, it's great. It really does allow devices to talk really quickly with each other. But when it comes to people, it just doesn't seem to make sense and not really needed. So that's kind of, I guess, the quickest overview of the health hazards, concerns, and why we're kind of questioning this forced deployment that we're going through right now with the FCC.
Okay, so where is the technology usually found?
In microwaves? Well, I think we all pretty much know microwaves are used for cooking anyway.
The
some
cooking.
Some people still use them, and that's kind of the primary public source of using microwaves. Of course, we all know the military uses them in all sorts of weapons and other high tech industries, I'm sure. for maybe manufacturing and other purposes, medical, of course. But, speaking of cooking, that's pretty much what it does to your body. If you're in the way of a microwave beam, it's literally, the first thing that happens is your sweat cells boil. I mean, you literally feel like you're on fire. And so one of the directed energy weapon systems that is commonly used is called active denial system, and that is a crowd control system, basically. It can be used as a different type of weapon, but for crowd control, they have it set at a certain frequency and with a certain power, and you can't stand there in the beam. It makes you feel like you're on fire, and it definitely will move a crowd of people off the street because they'll be so uncomfortable and in pain. I don't really get why the FCC is forcing it, but I have a bunch of theories I hope to talk to you about later.
Okay.
Carolyn, hi. I wanted to ask you, this is Noreen. Do you happen to know where the majority of these 5G towers are placed? Now, I want to interject about this because I was watching some videos about the 5G transmission, devices, and I did see one not long ago near a hospital, and I think it's a cylinder placed on the pole of a light pole on a street, like a street light. And
yes.
I mean, that might be one form, but do you know if those are the most common types of, quote, transmitters?
Sure.
Or are there other kinds of towers that we don't see, and so forth? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The cylinder type, those are called RAND domes, R-A-N-D, and they're pretty popular because they give you a 365-degree beam. They can direct the beam in 365 degrees, or 360 degrees around the pole. So no matter where you're standing around the pole, you'll be able to get a signal from it. And but yeah, they come in a bunch of different styles depending on what they're going to be mounted on and depending on the carrier. So each carrier may have 3 or 4 different designs that they use depending on where they're going to be placed. And the way the whole grid works is you're going to have satellites. Believe it or not, there's going to be at least 20,000 satellites used in low Earth orbit to cover areas that are more like rural, where there's not a lot of town development and whatnot and structures like that to put things on. So they're going to start with that, and it's going to come down. You're going to have macro towers, which can be like the existing cell towers that you see now, the tall ones, and they'll use a higher power supply to get the frequency down to the next level. So there'll be some lower macro towers that are about the height of a utility pole or on a rooftop or something like that. And then from those type of macro towers, the signal will then connect with the small cell locations, where that would be directly on the utility poles themselves as well, the cable lines, your cell phones, sometimes on external buildings and intersections, street lights. If you've noticed, there's a lot of new street lights going in all over, and they have those little nodes. A lot of times they're blue, and they just have a little node on top. And those are small cell technology as well. And things as small as, I don't know, like the size of your mouse, that for your computer, the size of your mouse can be a small cell, and it could be located anywhere. You might never see it. But then from those smaller cells, then signal goes directly to your cell phone and your car and whatever other, little smart devices are around.
Smart appliances that they want everybody to buy and purchase and put in their homes, whether it be refrigerators, coffee makers, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And you have to have I guess most of the cable boxes now in your home are 5G ready, but then you also, if you're going to have smart devices in your home, you need a 5G router. And so most of the routers and the cable boxes these days are already 5G ready, same with most cars. And so, that's that's really the problem is, you're going to be in a smart city or at least on a smart street. You won't be able to avoid coming in contact with these microwave beams. And so that's really the problem that most people like me have is you don't have the option to opt out of it. You don't get a say in it. And if you look at it back, from the World War II era, honestly, it's in violation of the Nuremberg Code. And the Nuremberg Code says that if you're not allowed to be experimented on or have anything like that done to you without your full knowledge and full understanding of side effects, consequences, whatever. And, because this whole system has never been tested on a large scale, it is, in my opinion, it's a huge experiment, and we're all the guinea pigs. And I don't see how this can be allowed. It's like a crime against humanity.
Okay, Carolyn, so if you leave your home to, you have a destination downtown for, whatever you need to do, and you're on your road, your route to your destination takes you down, a couple smart streets. What happens to you as you pass all the little street lights that have the gadgets on them, or in the building? How much of this these waves are you being exposed to at every stoplight?
Well, to be honest, that is the real problem right there, because nobody knows. I've gone around and used my detector and tested different areas, but that's part of the reason that most of the scientists are so upset about it, is because there is no plan to have any type of regular monitoring done to be able to confirm that, just what is the exposure. So they can't even tell you that, and that's why we're all saying it can't be allowed, because they don't really know. There's been no long-term studies or even real-time studies where they've done that. It's not even documented, and the reason they haven't done it is because they know if they do, it's going to overexpose everybody. That's the real issue right there, is that there's no way that they can ensure the safety of everybody. And even the phone manufacturers themselves know this now. And like Motorola, actually, their first 5G phone coming out has a special the antenna inside the phone. There's multiple antennas. So they're going to be on each edge of the phone as well as the front and the back. And the reason they're doing that is because they know that having your hand will block the signal for your phone. And because it's blocking the signal, the microwaves are being absorbed by your hand. And they know that that's hazardous. So they have the phone designed that if one of the antennas is blocked, it will automatically go to another antenna somewhere around the other side of the phone or whatever until it gets a clear signal, so that they're trying to protect people's hands. So that should be enough in itself to tell you don't want to hold the darn phone. I mean, it's obviously hazardous,
Yeah,
you're going to be exposed. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, as we were saying. Carolyn, what do you think is the purpose along the lines of 5G in terms of tracking people and data mining? I'm assuming it makes it easier, faster on their end, whoever they are trying to track us. What is your opinion about that?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I think that, there's a few different reasons why the FCC is really fast tracking this and skipping all of the health concerns, that people and scientists are bringing up. But it's partly market driven because one of the huge goals is they know that they're going to make billions, and they even said this. Tom Wheeler even said this when he first announced what was going on and that 5G was going to be fast-tracked in this country. And there's a couple reasons commercially that are important to know is yes, the Internet of Things is going to allow data mining of you and everything you touch, like on steroids. I mean, if you think you're being data mined now with, the Google, popping up, ads to you whenever you search for a certain product, and then all of a sudden you're seeing ads for those products pop up everywhere, it's going to be way worse than that, because not only is it going to be about things that you buy or look at and that sort of thing, but it's going to be your very biometrics. I mean, everything, especially if your house is smart. They're going to know exactly what medicines you're taking. They're going to know everything about you. So that's one reason. But I think another reason that it's fast tracking here right now is because China already has 5G and some 6G, believe it or not. And they have a microchip called Huawei, whereas we over here have one called Qualcomm. Probably would have been slower developing our 5G systems here if it weren't for China. And I really believe, and I've read a lot of this in tech and government-type journals, as well as hearing other people talking about it in our industry. But they were concerned that if we don't step up and get our 5G systems up and running here, that the market demand, the end users, are so addicted to our devices and they want the latest technology that China was going to be able to technologically invade our country, and that their microchips and whatnot will be here in our systems instead of our own. And that's a huge security risk. And also, they could end up subjugating our population, because they're going to have all the data and our government will not. So China will have all of your data that's mined instead of our government. And, of course, then they would be the dominant superpower on the planet in terms of industry and commercial, all of that money that comes in. It could really be devastating. So I understand that, but does that negate the health and environmental concerns? Because who cares about who's the biggest and has the most money if the food chain is broken and everything on the planet dies? Who cares about the money,
Right.
Anyway. Yeah, I wanted to add really quickly, Mark, to Carolyn about that point, because if anybody, be it the Chinese that you just mentioned, thinks that they're gaining out of this, they will lose just alongside with the rest of humanity and engaging in this high level of manipulation of technology. Right. They're not winners either. Yeah. Right.
And I don't know if you've ever seen, I can't remember the website, but, China has this kind of, what's it called? It's like a social programming thing going on over there. Social credit, thank you. I couldn't think of it. I haven't looked at that in a while. But, yeah, I mean, that sort of thing, already we're seeing with our social media, the peer pressure and different things going on that has really changed the mentality of the younger generations. And, talk about government control. I mean, they can really rate you like our credit scores, but it's social scores, because you're not performing or doing or participating or whatever it is they want you to do. And, so that's a whole nother issue that there. I mean, already we have TV and different things that are manipulating us and kind of socially programming us, if you will. But I think this is going to be a whole nother level, because they're going to know everything about you,
When, Barbara and I do some of, our show prep, might say something like, "Oh, hey, I heard about this guy's new book," and, you might go to, Amazon, see what other books this person has written, and next time you go back to Amazon, there's like maybe 2 or 3 samples of this author's books just suddenly appears on there, and
it's recommended for you. Yeah.
Right. Other than when I heard this guy on someone's show last night, never heard of him before then, but all of a sudden is 3 recommendations of his books, just for you. People are seeing where you go on all these different websites, but is that really becoming the trend of how things are going? Products are going to be marketed to you, and where's all this data being stored in the first place? Is it being sold to companies?
Yes. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, every single thing that you buy going forward is going to have an RFID attached to it. And so that's another reason why they're having satellites, because they'll be able to track everything, just like they can track your credit card now, wherever you travel, that sort of thing. They'll be able to track every single product you buy and know where you've gone, or where your stuff is gone. I mean, it's just going to be over the top an invasion of privacy to a level that we can't even comprehend yet, because it's, we just aren't thinking along those lines. We're everyone is so addicted to their devices and all these fabulous new things that we'll be able to do because of 5G and all that. So they're not really, when they're marketing, of course, they're marketing the really cool side of the speed and some of the technological things that will be able to come about of it. But they're just not making it safe. I mean, that's the whole point. They're like jumping ahead at the sacrifice of everybody's health. And, there's just things about it that are so wrong on so many levels. I mean, the signal is, yes, it's the smallest, fastest frequency in the spectrum, but it can be blocked by rain or even fog and trees and buildings. So, that's why I'm saying they're going to have these antennas everywhere. And really the best solution for everybody in terms of health and safety, speed and privacy and security would be just to run the fiber optic cables directly to the end users and have everything hardwired. It's the safest thing on so many levels. It's safe for our bodies, for the environment, for security. It makes no sense to have so many things that don't need to be wireless. I've gone through and hardwired everything in my house. I don't other than my cell phone, which I'm soon to get rid of. I can't understand why everyone is not seeing this. It just seems so simple. If you run it to the end users, then they can decide if they want to put a 5G router in their house. But I don't think they should have 5G antennas going down the street in schools and all these other places, because the average person doesn't realize the hazards that come along with it. Our bodies are 70% water, so we're absorbing the microwaves into our tissues. We breathe oxygen, and oxygen molecules absorb microwaves, and so just those 2 things alone make microwaves extremely toxic for people, for any living organism that's made up of water and breathes oxygen, because it's literally going to deprive, I don't want to give a biochemistry lesson, honestly, our bodies and the bodies of all the creatures out there are going to be slowly deprived of oxygen. And as that happens, the cells are going to be less able to function like they're supposed to, and they're going to break down, and we're going to get all sorts of diseases like cancer and whatnot, and then the cells are going to start dying, and it's just a cascade effect for our immune systems. I mean, it's just, people just can't see that far ahead to understand it. But even simple things, I mean, it can cause obesity and diabetes and it totally messes up the gene expression. So, all these kids in school now where all the devices are wireless, they're all going to have issues. They're either going to be infertile or they're going to pass on mutated genes, and their offspring are going to be having significant growth and development mutations and things like that. And, we already know that bone structure, like your skeletal structure and your heart and things like that, are significantly affected with bad gene expression, something that's a teratogen that affects your ability to reproduce and things like that. And then you go on to the whole other level that, even our current Wi-Fi right now can be used to affect your emotions and your just your health in a variety of ways. Like they can adjust the signal to make you sleepy or depressed, or anxious or have anxiety. They could make you passive and docile, or they could, incite a riot. And that's well documented. That's an information that's released from the CIA and the MK Ultra program. I'm sure a lot of your viewers are familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Do you think most of the listeners here understand all the health effects and what can come of a complete saturation of microwaves in our environment?
Yeah, Carolyn, I think you've done an excellent job of delineating what can happen with the saturation, and I know Noreen has had some issues that she thinks that could be related to the 5G in her house. So, Noreen, do you want to discuss your story and see if you're experiencing the same side effects that Carolyn's been discussing with us?
Sure, yeah. Basically, when she was talking about the health impact, I had already known, even prior to my personal experience with 5G, I heard about its dangers and that it was not a good thing, but it wasn't until it came into my home, and that's when I experienced it directly. I think Carolyn did too. I'm sure she'll get into that, but for myself, what happened was we had a family member that basically ordered, a cable company to come in with a new offer to set up, new internet, new cable and phone and all that. So basically we were with another company, and then we canceled them and had this, new company come in, and they tore out all the wiring and cables from the other company so they can install their equipment. And I happened to be gone that day, but when I came home, the technician who just installed the new system, he was about to leave, and he stopped. He comes out to talk to me, thank goodness. And he goes, oh, by the way, your owner's manual is on your desk, because my router for the whole house, the main one, is in my room. So I'm like, okay, thank you. And then he goes, oh, by the way, you have 5G. And my mouth almost dropped because I knew that this was not good. Now, I'm not a psychosomatic person, so as I went back in the house, I thought, okay, what's this about, all right? But as soon as I entered my room and I sat for a while, I was already feeling impacted by the microwave emissions coming out of this humongous modem router thing. And I tried to give it a chance. I spoke to a friend who's very aware of this technology, and he goes, I wouldn't even have it. And I'm like not feeling well, because I have to be online, and I'm trying to do my work or talk or whatever, view things, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. My eyes are hurting. I'm feeling strange. And it didn't let up all night, and then I decided the next day, I got to get rid of this. I mean, it was already a whole day, only a night passed before I decided I don't want it, which is good. The sooner the better, in my opinion. So then And what happened was I had to arrange for the old company to come back in. And they were able to, fortunately, and here's the weird thing, was that before I had fiber optics, which they discontinued. So I'm thinking, oh no, am I like going to be like screwed with nothing, no internet at all? Fortunately, they were able to tell me, well, we have Ethernet. Now, what's funny is that one of the, I think it was an operator or salesperson from this company, she sort of tried to dissuade me a little bit. Dissuade me a little bit about to install Ethernet. She says, oh, well, if you want Ethernet as slow as your grandmother's, and I'm like, what? You know, people are telling me, oh, you can't do this, and that, which is not true. I just want to say that. In Miami, at least in my case, not. So basically, it took me a while to figure, okay, I need to go back and have the old company come back in and install another system because I can't have 5G in my home. Now, during these next ensuing 2 days, I was feeling crappy, and I tried everything. I tried sleeping out of the room and hooking my router. Nothing was working. And finally, a friend told me she viewed a video saying that the reason this might be happening is because some of these routers have self-generating batteries. This is something I forgot to mention to you guys before in our chat, but I want the public to know this. These routers have self-generating batteries. So when you unplug it, it doesn't mean that it's like stopping to work. So my friend goes, you got to get it outside of your house. So I did. I put it in my patio, and that was the end. I started to feel better. By the next day, I was fine, and then I got the old company and put in Ethernet, which is like Carolyn was saying, it's hard wire, and it does work. Mine, in my case, I can watch videos. I can do anything. It's not a problem. I want to say about my health, yeah, I have a blood sugar issue, and I was improving before this whole situation happened. I was really improving well, but that did set me back health-wise. My blood sugar started getting really erratic. And I'm still dealing with the repercussions now, although it's slowly getting better. So, yes, it is true, people, that things like blood sugar and other issues, cancers, autoimmune disorders, vision problems, anything can happen with this level of intensity of microwave emissions. So that's what I wanted to share.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, Noreen, your story seems to corroborate, Carolyn's research, and we do have a caller with a question for Carolyn. So, Barbara, do you want to bring on the caller now?
Yep, Jay's on the line.
All right. Hey, Jay.
Hey there. Thanks for taking my call. This is a very interesting subject you're talking about. I'm very, very keenly interested in, listening to more of this conversation.
Great. What's your question?
Great.
My question about 5G in regards to the cities in the United States that have been rolled out. Do you know any more than the 19 cities that have been rolled out for 5G? And my second question is regarding 5G. Have you heard what's happening in Brussels regarding the decision regarding launching, 5G in their country? Because I think that's a very important thing to watch for, because that might set a precedence for stopping 5G to be rolled around the world. Just wondering what your thoughts about that is.
Yeah. Well, let me start with that one, because yes, I have been keenly watching that, and I'm really glad that it happened that way, because I've been seeing some other reports where the miscarriage rate has gone up over there 300%, and so that's very significant. And I think that a lot of those kind of reports have influenced their decision to kind of push it off a little bit here and just do more research before they just roll it out. And I do know that there are several areas around that are not highly publicized, like the 19 cities that are being tested on a larger scale for 5G. There's a lot of smaller level 5G going in all around us, even up here in the Northeast, in the New England area. Mm-hmm. We have seen 5G towers and equipment going up all around. As a matter of fact, all of our streets are currently in New Hampshire here. I'm in the Lakes region of New Hampshire, and all of our street lights have been updated with the LED type of bulb, and they all have those little nodes on top. I don't know if you've seen those, but those are, they're 5G ready. So they're ready to be connected to the grid. And at the same time, all of our telephone poles are being upgraded with fiber optics, and more than one or two cables now. So we're getting multiple cable companies. We're getting at least 3 levels of fiber optics going up on the poles, and then we're seeing high frequency small cell towers going up on rooftops and intersections and other areas. So I don't know why they're not I don't understand. That's kind of where I'm at right now with the New Hampshire Commission is, we're seeing it come in all around us, and it's like, where does this come from? And nobody knew about it. There was no request for public comment or any of that normal stuff that goes along with permitting for the large cell towers. The small cell stuff is just rolling on in, and there is like an interface between the energy companies. Like up here we have EverSource, so that whoever's providing the electric, and the cable companies and the telecommunication carriers, those 3 are all, working together in some fashion, because there's an interface for all of them on the utility poles. And that's really where I'm focusing my work right now, because, we don't understand how this is just coming in, and our local officials don't know what's going on. You have to call the electric company or the cable company or the telecom carriers like AT&T themselves directly and find out, what's going on. And so what I've been doing is I'm getting addresses from where I see all of these small cell towers going in, and I can tell by the look of them, because I've actually been studying the ones that are going up in California and other places. And so I recognize that, that's a 5G antenna, that's an amplifier or whatever. And so I'm getting the addresses, and I'm going to the land use offices and pulling the permits. And on the schematics themselves for the permits, they won't say this is a distributed antenna system or this is 5G. You have to know what the frequencies are. You have to know what the high frequency is in order to look at the schematics and say, look at that. That's a 5G antenna right there, because it's using, 35 gigahertz or whatever, whatever the frequency range is.
24.
Yeah, well, anything over 24 is in the microwave spectrum, and it can go up as high as 300. And I believe in the United States, it's going to be in the range of 24 to 100. And so that's how they're going to distribute that bandwidth between the primary carriers. So that's what you have to do, and it's a long process. I mean, so I got another hint about going to the 911 offices, and they should be able to help provide a map that shows where all the cell towers are in any given city, because most of the 911 operating systems, they have that kind of information, because they're always upgrading with, GPS coordinates and things like that. And so they've got all sorts of maps, even 3D maps for buildings and stuff that have to do with emergencies. So that's where we're going, but there's no way to know, because I've been traveling all around in the states here in New England, and I'm seeing pockets of 5G, like one town could have it and another town right next to it doesn't. It's like, so that's why I got on the New Hampshire State Commission, because right now one of our senators and one of our state reps is going to be educating, they're currently educating the Senate here on 5G, and on April 16th, they're having a Senate hearing at 1 o'clock, and they're going to vote on authorizing the 5G Commission, which I'm on, and we're going to be helping the communities in our area develop urgency ordinance language that should be able to help. Like, that's been successful in some of the California towns in different areas. That's the primary way that people, the communities, you can't do it on a statewide level so far, but on a community level, you can, and you can get the ordinance language put in, and that will at least allow the communities and municipalities to maintain some control over their public right-of-way. So, but yeah, it's in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and I haven't been over to Vermont yet to look over there, but pretty much, most of the northeastern states have pockets of it up here already.
So it's interesting you say that, because reason why you can't actually do anything about it, and because for one thing, it's an agenda that's actually a worldwide agenda they have planned, years ago. Because even my modem inside there has a 5G thing on the tab on. No, it actually has a 5G tab on it for 40 or 80 gigahertz. It's built in, and my modem's been it's been up for about 3 or 4 years, right? So it's an agenda. Also, did you look at the 1996 Telecommunications Act regarding that, when Clinton put out there, said about giving rights to companies that oversees basically anything, even local laws regarding placements of cell phone towers and things like that? Because I would look into that. That actually is a main thing. That reason why the local governments can't fight, the state or even these telecommunications companies for putting the cell phone towers in, these 5G towers in. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things that they're trying to deal with up here with the I can't think of the name of it. They have I'll have to pull out a piece of paper here. Hold on. We had something here in New Hampshire that they were looking at doing to overcome that, and it can be done. It's called the New Hampshire Community Rights Amendment that they're working on, and so they're looking to, supersede that 1996. What was it called again? The Communications Act.
1992 Communications Act.
It's really a mess, because Tom Wheeler said in his speech, you can listen to that too. And
I know that one.
That was scary. I mean, he basically said you cannot deny a permit for the 5G towers simply based on health concerns. And, that's like the biggest one. How can, I mean, if we have health concerns, then we should be able to keep it out of a school, Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I did a presentation on EMF, and we were talking about 5G, and I've been really, really looking at this very, very closely and what I can do to, mitigate or reduce EMF in my place, and it's all over the place. So I think that's going to catch a lot of people off guard, really a lot of people off guard. I think maybe 1% of the people they're out there who are investigating like this stuff, like yourself, are actually going to do some things about your own personal health and personal protection. Otherwise, we're going to see a massive people either dying or getting sick from this stuff, and they won't know where it is, and they'll go to the doctor and get the vaccine.
Jay, I was going to mention, you just mentioned vaccines. Something fell. Jay, hi. You were mentioning vaccines, and you were mentioning agenda earlier.
Yeah.
I think you're onto that, because this is an agenda that's, I'm not very technical, so I don't want to get into the technicality of it, but let's just say there's been an agenda going on for a century or more, probably to control populations. Yes. And I'm going to bring up the United Nations is also part of, Agenda 21, Agenda 2040, 30, sustainable development, and they're throwing the 5G all into this. It makes me think, and this is very conspiratorial, but it does make me, or people like myself, think that they want to depopulate the world to whatever level they want, because they want to control people, replace them with robotics, and I don't know whatever's left over, if that's possible. I don't know what they will do with them, but it's a very sinister agenda from what I see. I know we're going into an area a little bit different here, but
No, I wanted to go into this area. I was just waiting, and until we got there.
Yeah, I've been watching lots of videos and actually looking at some of the reports, actually some of the test reports they did in Russia and on all this stuff regarding how they used pulse EMF for healing and how it actually destroys your tissue. It has certain frequencies. It's just unbelievable. I'm just so surprised that like up here where I live in Canada, they're going to be auctioning off the spectrums off in 2020, and what I'm seeing right now is that about the 24 gigahertz range is being auctioned off right now. There's a lot of countries that have that array for different telecommunications companies. I don't see a lot for the higher range, but we're going to see those come up, and I'm not sure what type of protection is out there for anything that's really for the high gigahertz stuff. So it's going to be very. For me, I'm wearing EMF clothing and just getting used to that. I actually built a EMF canopy right now, made of silver fiber.
I've been doing stuff like that. I've been doing that too. I've been ordering fabrics from the lessemf.com website and a few other places. I mean, I even ordered shungite from Russia, and I've been looking at developing little shields like with umbrellas, and then just affixing some of these fabrics like mylar and stuff that will repel the microwaves. But keep in mind, microwaves are blocked by water, or even just metal or your house. It's not like they're not going to come through your house unless they significantly boost the power. Okay.
But that's what I hear.
When you're out on the street, you definitely are going to need to start wearing protective clothing, and especially for your eyes. I mean, that's probably the most vulnerable thing on our bodies is our eyes. But hey,
I'm looking into that.
Have you guys looked at the Silent Weapons for Silent Wars document? I think Noreen, you've listened to Deborah Traveris' sites, right?
Yeah.
And there's a document that was an operations research technical manual, came out in May of 1979. And that's where the Silent Weapons for Silent Wars information came out, which had to do with microwaves and as well as other types of things like ultrasonic weapons, not just, And then Deborah Traveris also mentions the City Climate Action Plans and Wild Lands Project, and that falls right into the same thing you were just talking about with the agendas to depopulate, and they're trying to move us all into resilient cities, which will really be what we're calling now smart cities, and that's how they'll control us. They're going to try to depopulate. Yeah.
I wanted to mention you were talking about the smart cities. Do you notice? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was talk about the smart city thing. Go ahead.
Oh no.
Go ahead.
No.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. Oh.
Noreen, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. No. Just really briefly, the smart city thematic. I live here in Southern California, I'm assuming this is kind of nationwide or global even. So I'm not, just because I'm here seeing it doesn't mean I'm seeing videos where this is in many places. Have you noticed, they're trying to tear down older infrastructure, older buildings, houses that, that are maybe not as, quote, smart friendly and so forth, and then replacing them with cheap housing, but mainly what they would term stack and pack is kind of like the slang terminology for these humongous apartment/condominium complexes that are really, some of them do look externally attractive. They try in some cases, but some cases they just throw them out there and they're there. And you drive down the street and you're like, you're amazed. You might see a former house or former business building and it's gone, and in its place is like this humongous apartment/condo building. And I was watching videos about, they don't even want to build single-family homes anymore. They're trying to even phase away from that and just getting into these humongous living complexes where I think, obviously, they can manipulate you so easily because, number one, you don't have access to your car as much because of less parking, and all that's another situation with the cars. But also because that has to do with Uber, no offense to Uber or whatever, but here you have self-driving cars, but then you have also inside of these cubicles, I call them, or whatever, apartments, you're kind of trapped in where maybe you may not have a window, and think they can also beam a lot of 5G, whether you want it or not, into, you don't have to worry about having your own internet. Our whole building is wired for internet. You just turn on your computer, and then you don't know it's 5G. And I think this is so dangerous for people to fall into this thing about, I want to live in this trendy, and that's the way to get people back into the cities, too, by the way. Because there is an exodus out of the cities. They want to pull people back in by attracting them with these places. But that's, it's crazy.
And make all that stuff free. Like that's how they got all the Wi-Fi into our schools. They had a huge push to get all the school equipment to be wireless. And so they literally were giving the devices out to the schools. And now, I mean, the consequences are just, we're not going to see the end of the consequences for decades and decades. I mean, it's even if it stopped now and they hardwired everything in the schools, the damage has been done for at least a couple generations now, But yeah, I agree. They're going to try to just entice everybody.
The mutation of humanity too, and depopulation eventually, because how can a human body sustain so much damage, mutation, it doesn't make sense. So there's some end game to this.
Yeah. Well, Jay, did you want to ask any other question, or I don't know? Should we get Mark in here?
No, I'm learning a lot from Jay too. This is
okay.
Yeah, this isn't my specialty, but Jay knows what he's talking about.
He does.
Jay, you want to?
I didn't know if Jay wanted to go or if you wanted to keep talking with us, because it's up to you.
No, I just listen. So, for myself, I bought some EMF fabric from China, and I made my EMF canopy, like I said. So that dramatically reduced my EMF inside. Well, I can actually sleep better now, and because I actually have right now I'm talking to you. I'm wearing my EMF vest and my EMF cap right now, but it's actually a silver line, so it's actually for higher frequencies. So I'm trying to get my hands on something that will work for even higher frequencies than that. So the body test I did says about 40 dB down for 40 gigahertz, so I'm not sure anything past that. But I'm actually going to make a EMF canopy for my computer desk and out of Mylar, so we'll see what that's like. But so for me, it's an interesting game right now, because I think I'm doing stuff ahead of time in case when the stuff hits the fan, that people are rushing to getting aluminum paper and and Mylar and whatever, trying to get away from this stuff. But this is a very scary thing for humanity, because when I was listening to when people were like the fertility rates in other countries are really low, and even in your country, I think it was down by almost 1 million, people. So they're really going after depopulation model, like really going for it. But unfortunately, this stuff is that one of the things I find about when they talk about EMF or even 5G is that they don't know what it means. So there's a thing about ignorance about what's going on, and also oblivion what's going on, because you cannot see EMF, you can't taste it, okay, you can't see it, okay, and you can't smell it, but you can measure it, okay, up to a certain point. And the thing is that when you show people what's going on, they just run the other way. It's like, I don't want to know about that. Oh, it's like, they just laugh. It's like, and I see
same
people
with the fluoride in the water and some of these other things. It's the same thing.
I know what's really interesting about what I'm just learning. Like, I know what fluoride does to the body too, but it's like a very small amount causes a lot of damage. And even the EMF, it's like milliwatts, per meter squared, like just very small amounts. And you know what? I was with a friend, and I had my meter. I have a EMF meter, and I put it right beside her phone, and it peaked at 1,000 milliwatts per meter squared, and going like, this must be an anomaly. So I went to a store where they're selling phones, and I was near a phone. I was near a smartphone, and I put my meter against it and started playing around with it. Didn't know how to use it, and it peaked at 4,000 milliwatts per meter squared, going like, this is not an anomaly. So that pulses, okay, that's in our, like, put our purses or near, like when guys put their smartphones in their front pocket, it's destroying your DNA, and it's just, I mean, like this is really very very bad.
And you know what's really interesting? I don't know if you're familiar with Dan Winters at all, but he's a genetic researcher. Well, he does a lot of things. He's into physics and genetics and a lot of that stuff. Amazing. And he has a video called The Purpose of DNA. And if you ever want to spend a really intelligent 2 hours, and this was back when he was younger, I can't even remember how old he was, but he reminded me of a geneticist. He's like Mr. Rogers. You know, I remember Mr. Rogers, the kid show. Yep. Well, he's a very gentle man like him, and he is fascinating, and he has some of the most amazing visual aids to help you understand the purpose of DNA. And he gets into talking about Wi-Fi and what it does to DNA and how it destroys the spark of life, literally the spark of creation that is, at conception, and then even when you are, basically he's saying it destroys your connection with source. So whether you believe the source is God or the universal energy or whatever, however you want to think of it, it's a fascinating video. And if that doesn't explain the very, very subtle bioelectric, biomechanical, magnetic and electric fields that your body has to stay tuned with the earth. I mean, even look at the music industry, right? We were supposed to be at 432 hertz, and they upped it to 440, which is just out of sync, and it takes us just out of sync with the earth. And you got to wonder why they do that. Why is the music industry only allowing 440 hertz for the tuning? You know, it's not the natural sync with the earth, and so it's kind of taking us out of our biorhythms. And then you've got these things that are constantly chipping away at our DNA, and you got to realize that this is by design. I mean, you can't believe this is just their stupidity, because they know what they're doing.
It's a satanic agenda. It's Satan's tool, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not really religious.
I agree.
But, I wanted to also mention. I want to mention about friends. Somebody was talking about friends earlier. I lost a friend, a longtime friend, over this because he's very technical. And when I was trying to explain to him what was going on, he just wouldn't have it. He thought I was crazy. It was in my head. And after that, he basically told me, I don't want to help you anymore or whatever, associate with you. Yeah, because it's okay. But, it was strange because he just couldn't handle the fact that this was happening. It just was out of his reality. He didn't, I wanted to say one more thing about that is that another crazy thing is you're going to start seeing friends and family and everybody start to really split apart because of this issue, just like the vaccine issue, and this one too, because some people are going to say, well, I want faster internet in my house, and you can't stop me because I got to do work and gaming and this and that. And then some of the family members that are more aware like us might be like, but I'm not feeling well around it. I can't have it. Like, well, too bad. So this is going to start a whole situation.
Right. It already has. It was like that in my house. I mean, that's how it happened here. Because my sons, I have a 20 and a 26-year-old, and a few years back, they wanted the high-speed router, and that's how it all came into our house. And when I finally got the detector, I detected that the router was sending out pulse microwave beams, and I was like, oh my God. And we didn't have a 5G box. We had an old cable box, and so that's kind of what set me on the path to that, because I wasn't sleeping, and there was other effects as well. But it was exactly as you said. I told them, like, I wanted the router off every night. If you weren't using it, shut it off, because the TVs and everything else were hardwired. We didn't need the router except for their cell phones and their video games, and we have since hardwired all of that too. The only thing that's not hardwired is their cell phones, and so it was a battle. And I said, look, this is our house. I'm sick and I'm changing this, and that's what we did. But it was worth it. I think they understand now, because they are still addicted to video games, but they do understand. But yes, both of them will still keep their darn cell phone in their pockets, and they're not, I've offered to give them pocket protectors and all these different things, a cell phone case and whatnot, and they're just going to do what they want to do. They are not listening. And I understand it on an intellectual level as well, because I myself am finding it very difficult to hang out with friends who can't talk about these kind of subjects. You know, I literally have a monthly group meeting at my house for all of my aware friends, you know, the people I've met and friends that have, you know, woken up, if you will. And we get together literally once a month. It's like therapy, because I can't even go out. I can't go out on a girls' night anymore and a lot of that kind of stuff because I don't want to talk about the Kardashians or one stupid politics that's going on or any of that. I'm really having a hard time with that. So, you know, for me,
I feel bad for you because I know what you mean. When I just lost that one friend, and here you are trying to have a social time with people, and they don't want to hear what you have to say. I've been lucky so far. My main friends, whether they believe, most of them believe me, but even if they're doubtful, they're not going against me. But yeah, you had your sons that are just kind of on the edge, and they're kind of and then this is crazy, you know.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. And you know, I was going to say when you guys feel like moving on to another subject, I was hoping to get around to talking about how 5G is related to chemtrails and HAARP. So I don't know if you have any ideas on that, but I made some notes on that. But feel free to throw out a topic if you want to talk about something.
But I had a question for Jay. All this, the 5G stuff is in public, and you get the Georgia Guidestones out there. You just walk up and read them. But this is all part of a global agenda. I was just wondering if Canada has something like the Georgia Guidestones, where it's just really hidden in plain sight. Here's what we're bringing to Canada, and you or next generation, parts of the next generation just aren't going to be here to read this because we decide that you aren't part of our elite. Is there anything like that in Canada?
No. We don't have any Georgia Guidestones or anything like that. The thing is that whatever is actually done in most of the United States actually gets transferred. Like we just kind of like mirror it, what's going down here. So if in terms of the 5G rollout, it seems like it's all like what I'm finding now. They did some testing in Toronto and Vancouver for 5G, which is actually legal because you have to go through the Canadian Radio Television Commission to get those bans before you actually do anything. So, I mean, there's been a lot of testing around the world, and most of the tests that have been done around the world have actually been having devastating results, either from the birds falling out of the sky in Netherlands when they did that, or when they actually, had 5G when the firefighters went to the area in California that was actually burning. They were getting headaches. So I see this is very devastating. It's not very much power that they're putting out. It's just it's very bad. And I was listening to Jack Cruz was on a show, and he was talking about what happened with Katie Spade and Andrea Bourdain, and both of them lived in the same penthouse, but they had a 5G antenna on top of their roof. So it must have caused some mental illness for them to commit suicide, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
And so we're seeing lots of stuff like that. It's going to cause some really weird behavior stuff. And then, people who are on, antidepressants or medications that does it, it's going to be even more amplified. So one of the things about the 5G is actually detoxing your body as much as you can of heavy metals in your body so they don't become like conductors. Okay.
Yes.
And
that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to really detox right now because I'm feeling a timeline, right? Like we need to kind of detox now because we're going to get hit worse and worse with this situation. I agree. Yeah.
And do you
and it's hard
now?
Because and what can you do about everything they're spraying in the sky? Because there's metals up there, you're breathing them in. You got to get ahead of the curve. How are we going to do
Constant battle.
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
And
Carolyn, we're just, we're getting the 5G ground level, maybe up 30 feet on, just say the street lights. But, since you just brought up the chemtrails, you just can't escape that. And, at the start of the show, we got into, the satellites as well. But, we can't do anything about stuff that's up at those altitudes. I mean, that just seems like there is your depopulation program going on right there.
Yeah. I don't know what we can do about that either. I mean, until we can hold our public officials personally accountable, like, what Iceland did to their bankers and whatnot, I mean, what are we going to do? The president and the FCC and all them, they have to be held personally accountable for allowing this to happen. I mean, it's a crime against humanity. And, seriously, I think the current Wi-Fi that we have right now all around with the regular cell towers, I really feel like in a lot of areas, the whole population is just kind of pacified. They're in their programmed state, working.
Right.
I mean, and part of it is they're so busy working to make enough money to survive. Everyone's just in survival mode, or they're programmed into sleep mode, because there's very few people that will actually get up and be active about doing something. People will go down and protest certain things that are hot buttons, at the White House and whatnot. But how many people would show up down there to protest against, something to do with wireless communications or chemtrails or something like that? I mean, I haven't seen any protests, at least not publicized, that are going on down in D.C. about those kind of things. And that's the whole point. People are so distracted with all this other stuff in the news and different things that are going on around their areas that, they're just like, oh my God, I've got enough, pokers in the fire. I don't have time to deal with one more cause. And I feel the same way. I have a lot of friends who are into the vaccine cause or something else. And I'm like, look, you guys, I'm just focusing on 5G right now, because honestly, at that level, I mean, the amount of depopulation that could occur because of 5G and, nothing else matters. Nothing anyone could complain about in politics or civil actions or anything like that is going to matter when more than half of us are dead. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, once
it's really frustrating. It really is.
Yeah, once you start destroying the food chain, forget it. When you can't grow crops anymore, forget it. No one's going to care about money or anything else,
The thing is that there's approximately about 5 billion phones out there, okay, and about 8 billion Wi-Fi's out there. And what's happened is that when this product came out, okay, if you want to talk about the globalists wanted this to happen a long time ago, so they can get people addicted to the devices.
Exactly.
And what happened is that when you roll it out, okay, reason why you bring this up is that reason why people are not into fighting this is that if you're addicted to your device, it makes you happy for the dopamine hits you get every 30 seconds by looking at your smart device, okay? And they accepted this technology as safe and it doesn't do anything for you. Then what happens is that when there's a trend of, let's say, for example, maybe people getting sick or even people dying on a larger scale, then that's when some action may occur, but they can't pinpoint it to whatever, to the EMF or the Wi-Fi signals or to the signals that are destroying our DNA. And what happens is that they says, well, I'll just tolerate and get back to my vice because it's making me happy every 30 seconds. So that's the reason why that we haven't seen this. Another reason why that we're not really seeing this is that there's big money involved in this, like billions and billions of dollars. And what's happening, too, is that with this quiet rollout, what's happening is there's a lot of not only companies but also 401k plans and all this other are involved in this in tech companies that are rolling this out. So you have this. If you stall this, then what happens to the people who have the 401ks and have investments in tech companies who are rolling this out? So it's a double-edged sword, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. And this is a real problem. What I get here is that I don't see that much activity right now. I'll probably see it next year, what's going on. But I know some people who are hyper sensitive, like hypersensitive to EMFs, and I'm helping one lady right now on making a Faraday cage or a canopy for her bed, and we're looking at she might have a smart meter, so we're trying to block out the shielding there. So
I
there's
just
lots
did
of
that
stuff
at
going
someone's
on.
house. Yeah, that was amazing. I got that on one of my videos. On my YouTube channel, I showed it. But people just don't realize. But she was smart enough to realize that she wasn't feeling right, and she just happened to notice workers in a utility room next to her apartment, and she peeked in there, and sure enough, a whole wall of smart meters, was right on the other side of her kitchen, and so we did the same thing. Yeah, I got it all on video too. I was recording the detection meter, registering, signals that were just so strong. I mean, it was pegging off beyond what the meter would even detect. And in here, that's right where she stands to do her dishes at her sink. It was so high. So I got her some super heavy duty tinfoil, and I had her just literally put it up all on that wall, and I'm going back with some copper flashing to do inside all her cabinets and everything, and then I'm going to retest and see how good of a shield it is. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with my TV show. I have a public access TV show here in Laconia, and it's the Lakes region, and that's kind of what it seems like. I've gotten feedback, and people just want to know, what can we do, and so what I've been, I kind of came up with this list of, I don't know, it's about 10 things that people can do, and that's where I'm focusing my next series of 5 TV shows. Is going to be helping, explaining that they need to put together urgency ordinances. They need to start a class action lawsuit against the FCC. They need to have state-level regulations in place. They need to protect the public right-of-ways and spread awareness and education. And simply don't buy smart stuff. But of course, no one's going to listen to that. But that's like the ultimate thing. If they're not making billions of dollars, then they're not going to continue down this path. So if everyone stopped buying smart stuff, that would help. And then just breaking our addiction to our devices. Get outside, get back in touch with nature. And what we used to do. I'm 54 years old. We used to spend every single winter day outside building snow forts and skating and doing all this stuff. We were not addicted to devices. I'm still not addicted to my devices, but just like you said, focus on eating healthy and trying to, cleanse your body from the heavy metals and different things like that, but even caring for the environment. So we can do some shielding for our homes and our cars and our clothing and things like that. But what can we do for the environment, things like that?
Speaking of the environment and nature, I just want to say having trees, shrubbery, and plants outside of, if you can, outside where you live and indoors is supposed to be good for EMF. So that's just like a real basic thing that has to do with nature that we're talking about. But that's good.
We already started planting more trees in our yard. I've been telling everyone, if you live on the road and you don't have a tree buffer between your house and the telephone pole, you need to start planting trees. Like seriously. Usually the utility company, they're coming by and they're cutting branches and everything because they don't want the branches to take out the power for the neighborhood and all that. And I get that. But if you have enough room, I would be filling my front yard, with trees. That's exactly what I do.
It's interesting you say that because in England they're cutting down trees like crazy, trying to get these 5G things going. One thing about millimeter waves, I've been reading about it too, is that reason why they want these towers or smart cell or small cell towers to be close to each other is that you need to actually lower they have to run at lower power to meet regulations, so they have to be closer together because they attenuate the signal over a shorter distance. In Switzerland, they're trying to break the rules because you know how hilly Switzerland is, and they want higher power regulations instead of what they have, because Switzerland does have excellent rules and regulations regarding how much power these things put out. So they want to break the rules, and that's the thing, is that if they want to get across a long distance, it's going to take a lot of power. But anyone in that way is going to be, they're done basically. They're zapped. I find
up
that
here we're seeing like every telephone pole. There's a fiber splicing box being put on almost every single telephone pole down these streets in our area where they've upgraded with fiber optics. And so what I've heard is that every single telephone pole is going to have a 5G transmitter on it. And that is, like you said, because they want to keep it low power as possible, you know. And but what they're not telling everyone is that, you know, for the macro towers to connect and talk to the smaller cell stuff, the macro towers are higher power. And, you know, so it really doesn't matter. And then you've got all your satellites overhead. Well, what are they talking to and how much power are they? And obviously no one's going to be monitoring those. But, I mean,
satellites,
exactly. It's crazy.
You know, it's interesting, but 5G is actually here now. We just don't see it. And I didn't know about it, actually, until I was watching a video on it, is that the new 2019 cars that have radar detection on all the sides, that actually is 5G. They're running like 24, 77, I think, gigahertz. So, and I saw the power readings that they're putting out, and it's not very much, but it's still enough to cause DNA damage. But it's out now. We just don't see it in
what
public.
About the V2V, the vehicle-to-vehicle cars? You know, that whole communication from one car to the other. I think you're right. It came out in 2019. That vehicle-to-vehicle communication. I don't see how they can kind of even adjust, or like, what is the range? Are they're going to put out a certain amount of power to have one car, you know, communicate with another car, and then it goes out of range. And so then what picks up on it? Is it the small cells along the roadside? I mean, it's just like, it doesn't matter where you are, in your car, walking anywhere, you're going to be bombarded from above, alongside, and then utilities on the ground.
Yeah, and even the what is it, the driverless cars. I happen to be a participant in an experiment. I participated in. I was driving in one. I wasn't driving the car, obviously, but I was inside of a driverless car. Okay, I was riding around a track in one with other people. So then they had us fill out a questionnaire about what we thought. You know, but now I'm thinking this is like horrid, because what we're talking about now is related to, you know, all this stuff that we're talking about is all connected, and it's not good for us. So now, you know, I'm thinking, no, I'm not interested in driverless cars. It's just really bad, you know. And they're just trying to manipulate our whole landscape of our lives. And, you know, here's another weird thing. People will say, well, we live in cities, that's why we'll know. Because when you guys were mentioning about satellites, it doesn't matter if you're way, way out in the middle of nowhere. You're going to get hit because of satellite. So this is about controlling everybody everywhere and changing the landscape of our lives.
Right.
Carolyn, I just have, just kind of dovetail from Noreen's comments about controlling. Throughout this discussion, I think everyone said something about, change the DNA, or the eyes are the most adversely impacted.
Yep.
Jay and Noreen have spoken about. Just being around this is creating one of those things where I just wasn't feeling right. But we understand something's going on. what about the healthcare professionals? Are they like maybe there might be like the eye situation going on? Are this in what it's just too much eye strain, or you need new pair of glasses? Are the healthcare professionals really picking up on this 5G and making a diagnosis, or have you heard anything about?
Yes, I have.
How?
No, actually,
okay.
I would like to hear what Jay has to say, because that's an area that I have not investigated other than when I was in the doctor's office getting an X-ray. I asked the radiologist, I said, "Oh, is that a router up on your ceiling over there?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, everything in here is wireless." And, she had the lead tape on because she was running the X-ray. And I said, well, what do you guys do to protect yourselves from the EMF in here? And she's like, well, nothing. Why would we? I was like, oh, my God. I was like, get me out of here. But go ahead, Jay. Let me hear what I don't know really anything about what the industry's doing for their people.
So before I go, thanks so much for letting me be part of the show. Thank you all for that. I'd like to stay longer and
thanks
talk
for being
about this
a great
more.
guest.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk this another time. I actually subscribed to your station, your YouTube. I just found it on YouTube, so I just saw you.
Oh,
so,
thanks.
okay, you're welcome. What's happened is that between 2006 and about now is that it takes about 10 years for cancer or other symptoms to develop. Some are immediate with people who are hypersensitive, but what's happening is with the 5G and all these other wireless signals, and they're bombarding our bodies all the time, it is actually causing some health issues. So when you go to a doctor, they don't actually know about this because let's say someone that has a headache or something like that, which is probably if someone goes to a doctor for a headache issue, they'll prescribe something to you, or they can't pinpoint it, so they put you under test. So in the health industry, it's kind of like unknown, because if it maybe causes depression, well, they're going to say, well, put you on pills or whatever, because there's no way of pinpoint, because you can't see it. Like I said, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. So it has a trail of no that doesn't point it to it being like there's no trail for it. Basically, it doesn't point to that.
Yeah,
and
it's the same reason why they're not educated on nutrition either. So
you
go in and you're having digestive issues, and they can't help you there with anything but their drugs. Same with
That's right. So it's very
they're trying to do harm with it. What is it? The Hippocratic Oath is about not doing harm, but they are inadvertently, mostly, right, doing harm to us with vaccines, bad prescriptions that are not necessarily good for us. So I'm not trying to diss the whole medical scene. I know it can be life-saving, but for chronic illnesses, it's very bad. And with this technology going on, they're not on board with learning about it, because they're getting paid by Big Pharma and other things to participate in this unknowingly. So it's a big mess. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it is.
And
well, that's because we have a for-profit medical industry. I mean, literally, it's an industry. So it's for-profit. So until we have a not-for-profit medical industry, that isn't supported by Big Pharma and things like that, and they need to be properly educated. But most of that natural health type of wisdom is 200 years old and lost to most of humanity.
One thing about the signals that are out there that are actually destroying our bodies, David, if I speak right now of your mind too, is that the transmitters that are transmitting this, it doesn't discriminate on anything, like how much money you have, or how healthy you are. So even I'm going to put this in my neck. I'm doing another presentation on EMF at a organic food store here where I live next time around, and I'm going to say the subtle energy therapies do not work. The reason why they don't work is that they make you feel good, but the thing is that stuff is all around us. So unless we have some real personal wearing protection to kind of like reduce some of those EMFs that are around our body, we'll still continue to find those ways of making an excuse that if I put this on my cell phone, it's going to be okay, or wear a certain crystal, or a shungite, crystal that's going to work. It just doesn't. I mean, the only way I think the only way you're going to figure some of this stuff out is by a decent measuring tool and have fun with it, and that'll open up your eyes to what's going on, because you see some readings on there and go like, what does that mean? You go on to the internet and say, oh yeah, that's what it means, and that's I think the only way you can do it.
To educate yourself. And I've been using mine. I only got a cheap tri-field meter, but I want to get a better one. But some of the ones that are recommended are like thousands of dollars, and I'm not going to be able to buy those. Go ahead.
Yeah, I found out maybe I found one for about $100. You can buy one for less than $200. That's a general purpose one, and it's actually you can see some of the signals that are on there. You can see how much data is being downloaded, but you can't read it. But it just tells you what's going on, and does 3 mediums. It's a really nice meter. I've got one. I got a Cornet one, and I bought a real cheap one out of China for about $24. That one's okay.
Oh.
I had fun with that one before, but the Cornet one's kind of hard to. The ET88T Plus is okay because it's hard to read some of the stuff, but it's fairly good. But I like my GQ EMF 390. That's a good one.
How much was that one?
Well, I bought here in Canada, so it was $179. So down there, I think it's about $110 plus shipping or whatever. So actually, it's fairly reasonable. But it goes up to 10 gigahertz. So it doesn't do 5G because the 5G meters are very, very expensive. They're about thousands and thousands of dollars. So but it really gives you a good sign of what's going on. What I did with my meter is that I put it outside and I just wore it around, and I downloaded the data because it actually takes readings and saves the data, and you can see on an Excel spreadsheet what's going on, and that was very interesting. Then I put it inside my EMF vest, and I just walked around places where there was cell phone towers and around, so that was really interesting to see. So you get, it was good.
I got the tri-field meter because I liked that it was old school, and it just had a dial that you turn for different settings and whatnot. And it just I was using it more to, like you said, to know, is it there or is it not there? I wasn't looking to quantify exposure limit and all that. I just wanted to know, is there EMF coming from my refrigerator? Is there EMF coming from the router?
Yeah.
And it does have a microwave setting, and it does detect microwaves, but it won't tell you exactly what your exposure is. You know what I'm saying? It just you can see the needles pinging and it's going and whatnot. And you can try to use their scale, but it's not something that I would use to quantify your exposure. I would just say, yes, there is some here. You should get a better detector and really quantify it. That's my recommendation. But I've been going all over with mine, and it does help. It really does help. And same with just getting in your car and turning off your screen and turning off the Bluetooth. I have a Jeep Cherokee. It's a 2016, and I went to the car dealership and asked them if there was some way that they could deactivate any of the wireless components that are not essential. And they said it was a difficult choice to make because some of the systems are connected. So if I wanted to deactivate the Bluetooth and some of those other things that I don't use, then there was also concerns that some of the other information, I can't even remember what systems that they were talking about, but there was some systems that were essential to the car, to the operation, because everything's digitized now, that it would interfere with that and make it unsafe. And I don't know if that was true or if they were, so I don't even know where I can take my car. This is at the dealership, but who can I talk to about having systems deactivated in my car?
You know what? If you can't get the right answer,
I'm thinking maybe people should. Oh, okay.
Just before, if you can't get the right answer, always look for somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at. So, yeah.
I was going to say about the car thing, the problem, you guys, is they're trying to get us out of our cars anyway. However, if you're still driving a car, and if you can, I would say maybe try to get an older car that, whatever. But then it might be harder to get those fixed, later because of how, everything is so connected, as Carolyn was saying. And that's another problem because they want you to get out of your cars, but they also want to punish you if you drive. Well, you can't have your car the way you want. This is the latest technology, and your car won't even operate unless you are on board with this. And this is how they're going to translate every part of your life, right? Your children in school, your cars, your appliances, your food. Everything is being put into this agenda to control every human being. It's crazy.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah, you try to be self-sufficient and have a garden and a farm and all that, and something will come up and they'll prevent you from doing that. Just like they're trying to, do away with small businesses. They're making it really hard for anyone to run a small business because they don't want small businesses. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Do you guys want to get into talking about how 5G is related to chemtrails and HAARP?
No, but thanks so much for letting me be part of the show. I got another event to go to, but I love the show.
Okay,
I want to contribute more, but I got you on your YouTube channel, and thanks for talking to Mark and the other guests there. It'd be really neat to connect with you somehow, all three of us, so I can keep a track what's going on. So maybe I'll go through Carolyn for that. All righty.
Thanks for being a great caller, Jay.
You're welcome. You take care.
Bye, Jay.
Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Okay. Yeah, Carolyn, if you want to talk about go into more detail about chemtrails, or we have about 20, just over 20 minutes left. We can get into all this nefarious stuff that we've been talking about for an hour and a half, and who developed it. We can get into that as well. So, go ahead. If you want to touch more on the chemtrails, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious how much Noreen, you and anyone else, has looked. It seems to me like if you're aware of this kind of thing like 5G, then most likely you're aware of the chemtrails and HAARP and weather control and all that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, it seems like a lot of people know that HAARP and chemtrails are used together to control weather, such as, California wildfires, hurricanes, the drought. They can do a lot. They can cause,
the never-ending winter.
Yes, exactly. But, even socioeconomic warfare, really, by, causing a drought where all our produce comes from. I mean, that's warfare right there. But it also can be used to control populations. So, we know that there are metals and such up in the chemtrails that they're spraying, and we know that they get charged up when they turn on the HAARP arrays, and we know that they can direct and steer hurricanes with, space-based or craft, airplane-based lasers and such, and they can direct the hurricane to go wherever they want. And so, the other thing is that some people are saying that there are nanotech particles called smart dust up there as well, and that's connected to the 5G, because if we inhale the smart dust, then we are literally connected to the grid, and that's an area that scares the heck out of me, and I'm not sure if that's the plan for it or whatnot, but I have seen that, yes, indeed, there is smart dust, and they've pretty well defined it and all that in most of the, reputable journals that they've acknowledged that it's there. And so I just was wondering if you guys had any information on smart dust and how that is, could easily play into the whole get everybody into the smart cities, and everybody's got smart dust, and they could be controlled almost like a programmed biological life form. Have you guys got anything on that?
I really, Noreen, do you? I have some other comments on a related topic. But Noreen, do you have insight into that?
I don't know a lot of fine detail about it, but I've heard about how, Wi-Fi or 5G can activate particles that she brought up, Carolyn, such as bots. I don't know if that's a general term, bots. Particles that, and the danger about that too is that I'm kind of thinking that goes into our water, our air, our water, and our food system as well. So then what's happening, I'm kind of thinking in a really weird way, like we breathe, we drink, and then we eat. And then we're taking, not only are we being beamed by the Wi-Fi onto the body, but it's in our body because it's infiltrating these natural things that we take into our body for our nutrient and our sustaining capability, and yet it's running us inside. So I'm thinking this is another way to control people from almost a virtual reality point. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. And they even kind of disclosed that a little bit in the movie called Gamer. I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was basically back when the Sims video game was out, and they came out with the show called Gamer. It was a movie, and the premise of it was people would become characters in the virtual reality, that there was a controller on the outside, and then the people who were in the game were in this arena area of a city or whatnot, and the controllers could make the people do whatever they wanted, with their control, just like a video game. And at the end, when the one guy goes into the game to try to save his wife or girlfriend, whatever she was, and at the end they show that all the people who were in the game had smart dust, nanotech inside them, and that's what allowed the controllers to be able to control them. And it was just like, oh my God, it was just one of those moments where you're like, that's exactly what they're talking about when they're talking about smart dust. It's really scary. But anyway, well, I just was curious on whether you guys were up on that at all, because more people are talking about it, and I haven't researched it, so I don't really know enough about it.
Well, Carolyn, the chemtrails isn't my forte, but I do have a related comment about like the frac pads and the stuff that can blow off of those. It does show up. The billowing clouds do show up on FLIR cameras. The clouds aren't only going to just the borders of the frac pads and they dissipate. They're spreading out. At some point they're going to land on the grass. The cows are eating the grass. We drink the milk, and it's there's radiation coming from the frac pads and all kinds of other chemicals. All that is going out into the environment as well. It's basically similar to the chemtrail idea, but it's much lower to the ground. It doesn't really go out into the atmosphere. So I've smelled it when flaring's gone on, and it's staying closer to the ground.
Yeah, it's more localized, but it still gets into the food chain for sure.
Yeah. And no one considers that. It's just we just need to do this for America's energy independence, and gas prices are still going up.
The price of doing business, exactly.
But
exactly.
then after the pad is fracked, and it's still the pumps need to get the gas pumped through the pipelines to the compressor stations that takes it all down to the ports along the coast, and it's going to be sent overseas. So where's the energy independence? And then you still get the solar panels running the frac pads. Oh, so the solar panels actually work,
right.
but we're still being convinced that we're doing the patriotic duty of using our gas drilled right here in the United States.
I know. Yeah. No, I can't even look at fracking. I'm like anti-fracking no matter what. I am just not. It's such a polluting industry. It's worse than anything else that we're doing to try to get oil. It's just, I don't know. But I wanted to talk about another thing too. Before we get too late here, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Simon Parkes, since we were talking about the UK earlier. But Simon Parkes is a extraterrestrial contactee, and his parents were in MI6, so he's pretty well connected. And on one of his recent shows, he has a YouTube channel that he does regular shows on, and I think in March sometime he had one. He was talking about chemtrails because people over here were hearing about chemtrails being used to help fight global warming and such. And he was saying that's all a lot of crap, that's not has anything to do with it, and that it really has to do with detecting UFOs entering our airspace, whether they're just flying in or if they're just coming out of, like, say, fourth dimension. And I had never heard anyone talk about chemtrails in this way before, so that's why I'm bringing it up, because it's interesting about, and it's related to 5G. What he said was that when we have the metal particulates up there with the chemtrails, if a UFO comes into the airspace, especially if it comes in from another dimension, normally without the chemtrails, our radar can't detect the ones coming in from another dimension, say. But if we have the chemtrails there, when they come in from the dimension, it leaves a donut ring type of shape. It disturbs the particulates in the chemtrail, and that it can be picked up on the radar. So the radar is actually looking at the particulates that are up there because of the chemtrail. And then when they see an anomaly like this little donut ring appear on the radar, then they know that a UFO just came into our dimension, say. And I thought that was interesting. And his point of it was that it is so bad for the environment that it's actually contributing to global warming, not helping it, because it traps the heat underneath that level. So the heat comes in and stays; it can't dissipate. Just like on a clear night, it's colder than a cloudy night. The heat stays trapped under the clouds. So anyway, but what he was saying was that Russia, instead of using chemtrails, Russia uses a plasma-based technology, which I haven't researched yet, so I don't know how to explain it to you. But it is not harmful to the environment. All manner of UFOs, whether they're coming in from another dimension or elsewise. And I just thought that was interesting because that's one of the areas I'm looking to study a little bit more from the 5G side, because I'm just curious. I've heard another couple of interesting uses for 5G that you don't hear mainstream because they're paranormal-like. But one of the people has a website. His name's Cliff High. He's been on a bunch of interviews this year, and he's been going around telling everyone that the 5G, like the TSA scanners and stuff, that 5G was developed not just for the military for, the obvious directed energy weapons purposes, but apparently the 5G technology can also be used to analyze DNA. And, you'll notice recently we've had this uptake in genetic family trees and stuff, and get your genetics known and all that you see on Ancestry, DNA, or whatever it is. And he was saying that a lot of the 5G equipment is actually looking for alien-human hybrids. That yes, the telecommunication thing is usable and whatnot, but that may not be the primary purpose, and that they're actually looking for alien human hybrids with this technology. And I have not heard anyone else say this except for Cliff High. but he's being interviewed by a bunch of people, including like Richard Dolan, who everybody knows, from the ufology community. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and I want to do some more research on the chemtrail thing, but also on this whole idea that some of the higher biotech industries have been using microwave technology to analyze DNA, and I'm just starting to look into that. I haven't had enough time because I've been working with the government issue and the 5G thing, but I just thought that was interesting, and it comes right full circle then if you look at the the reported what do they call it, exchange program that our government and our Department of Defense and NASA had supposedly with extraterrestrial races from the Zeta Reticuli system. And according to a number of authors who've researched and written books on the subject, all of those directed energy weapons came from extraterrestrial races. They were not,
Carolyn?
discovered here. Yes.
They're looking for the haploid X group, among other things, because they are the government. Haploid Group X is if you go back in history theoretically, and of course I'm not an expert on this, but I have done a lot of reading on it, and apparently those who were survivors of Atlantis had the haploid X, and wherever they escaped to when the three different destructions took place happens to be exactly where the haploid X group is, and there are some philosophies that believe that the Atlanteans were actually extraterrestrials.
Oh yeah.
So,
I believe that totally. Yeah.
And the haploid group X is and it's the Iroquois and it's in the places that you would expect. It's in the Iroquois nation, in North America, it's in South America, it's in Egypt, and it's in one other place, and I can't remember where there are large groupings of it. So, of course, when I got my 23andMe, I went right away to see if I was a haploid group X. I'm not.
That's funny.
Wow.
But it
that just scares me too. That whole biometrics thing, getting your genetics tested. I'm like, we're being data mined on everything. Now we're going to be data mined on our origins, and that's kind of scary. So what do you think about that, though? Do you think that 5G could really be? They could be looking like why would they? I mean, maybe it's just an ancillary thing that's like, kind of just like an added benefit. But do you think that it's part of the design for the 5G? And why are they so, looking for these particular groups?
Well, they are they're going into depopulation. They're looking to isolate certain groups and bring others to the fore. So yeah, I think this is a time when, centuries, thousands of years later, they are looking to regather the group that was originally here. Yes, I believe that's exactly what they're doing.
Oh, wow. Okay, because I haven't heard any other researchers other than Cliff High, talking about this, and he didn't even get into it to the level that you just mentioned with the what they call it, haploid X.
Haploid group X, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm just getting into it. Yeah, I see we have 6 minutes left here, huh?
Yeah, and I think maybe we need to do a little bit of reading on some of these, last-minute thoughts we've been throwing out there, and we're going to have to reconvene in a few months and discuss our findings. We had, Jay was, you went from like being a caller to a guest. So that was nice
great.
having him. And it's a really sharp caller. Glad he was part of the show. But there's so many interesting things about all this technology we're getting into Zeta Reticuli stuff, and the depopulation. Consider doing this again in a few months.
One last thing I wanted to say really quickly, since we're talking about depopulation. It is interesting to me that the elites, whoever is in charge of this agenda, right, I'm thinking they're going to go off onto their own little islands, because there's many islands in the world, right, especially in the Pacific Ocean, right, that they can go off and isolate themselves in, very particular ways from the dangers while the rest of humanity dies. I mean, this is the only way I'm thinking of, or they could go underground too as well, right, or whatever. I don't know. There's different ways
they could go
escape, and this is what's interesting.
Absolutely. They could go
I
underground.
think they're going to go off
to the
planet.
moon.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to stay here. They're going off planet.
They're packing for Mars.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah. No, I agree. Well, I really appreciate y'all having me on and giving me a chance to get people out there talking 5G. And there's so many areas, you could really have quite the conversation. And it doesn't just have to be the negative health effects, And I think the more people talk about it, the more the solutions are going to come to the foreground. And because if you want to stay positive, you have to talk solutions. Otherwise, people are just going to get depressed and crawl in a hole somewhere,
And we only have say close to 3 minutes, maybe under 3 minutes left. And Noreen, do you want to tell everyone where they can listen to your show? And Carolyn, then mention your YouTube site and anything else you have upcoming appearances.
Yeah, real quickly, because I don't have much. I'm sure Carolyn has much more to share about that. I just have a show on Revolution Radio, and that would be Studio A, because there's two studios, A and B, and mine is called Wild at Heart with Noreen Helphand, and I'm in Pacific Standard Time, so for me it's 9 to 11, but Eastern Standard Time, is a default time for this all the shows that come out of Rev Radio, because it's in Kentucky. So that would be about midnight Tuesday for Eastern Standard Time for that show. And I have a YouTube, but I don't load up much, but I might be doing that later on. I have a Facebook under Noreen Helphand. I also have email, norkeo@gmail.com, if you want to contact me too. So that's about it for that.
Okay. And Carolyn?
Yeah, right now I just have my YouTube channel. I've been doing lectures and presentations the past few years on a range of topics, but the last year has been focused only on 5G and just getting, into the awareness mode and talking to local people. So my email address is cdlarocque@metrocast.net, and I think I have that on my YouTube channel somewhere too, that people can reach me there. And most of my videos on the YouTube channel at the end, they have a list of resources and references and also contact information for me. But most of what I'm doing is in the New England area right now, so that's where I'm focused. But you can certainly contact me anytime and have a conversation or an email conversation, and I do send out a lot of links to people who contact me that are trying to get information, or now that we have some good example urgency ordinance language that we can share that are coming out from different communities. That's kind of been a big one. And then the solutions are huge. Everybody wants to know what they can do. So that I'm trying to put a lot of that on my YouTube channel right now. And it's just my name, Carolyn Larocque. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Carolyn and Noreen. Hey, and Barbara has a show tomorrow night with Ross Hamilton, and we'll be back next Tuesday afternoon. I think it's 2 to 4 with Ahmed Osman,
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
The Egyptian origins of King David and the Temple of Solomon.
Time to say goodnight, Mark.